Did it start recording?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session on Meet the Master, organized by the World United. I'm Jyotsna, and today we have Dr. David-LeeShengTin with us. Dr. David is the author of Awaken to Your Divinity and Master Your Emotion. David is an adjunct associate professor of health and physiology at Maharishi International University in Iowa, USA. He is a board-certified holistic health and strategic intervention coach, as well as a relationship and marriage educator. He is also a certified advanced technique teacher for transcendental meditation, trained in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and Marma therapy. For over 25 years, he has helped thousands of individuals unfold their full mental, physical, and spiritual potential. Welcome, Dr. David.
Thank you to be here.
Yes, please tell us about how did your journey start?
Well, I remember I was like around 8 or 9 years of age when I had a teacher from my primary school, and he would come to give me some private lessons. And at the end of the lesson, sometime we would end maybe about 7 in the evening. And as we would walk outside, I would look at the sky and ask him, who put the stars there? What is this world all about? And this kind of conversation, this kind of curiosity was with me since from young. And he didn't really have answers as such. I grew up as in the Catholic tradition, so I knew about God and all this sort of thing from a Catholic Christian religious standpoint. But I was very curious about why I'm here on this earth. What is the purpose of life itself? And so I would bombard him with all these questions, and he of course, I realized as I grew older that he was quite a young man. He was like in his early 20s. And I saw him as a big man because I was only 7, 8 years of age. And then one day he told me about somebody called Buddha. And I said, who is that? And that's how I started to discover that there were other people who taught about what we now know as enlightenment and spiritual development outside of the Christian philosophy under which I grew up. So that was the beginning, I would say, of my journey. And in my late teens, I continued along this philosophical searching, reading different books that would come my way. And I remember very clearly it was, I was just in my 20, going on to my 21st birthday, when a good friend of mine, who we used to play lawn tennis and martial arts, things like that together, called me one day and he said, I found what we are looking for. And I said, what is that? He said, come and meet with me. So I did that weekend, and he started to tell me about this meditation program that he was doing and how it was so good for him. And this was, you know, in the 1970 itself. So in those days, what we knew of meditation in this part of the world was, it was a very religious thing. Meditation was something that only priests or religious people would do, not ordinary people. So anyhow, he told me about this, and I believed in him. He was older than myself, and I trusted him. And I went and I investigated, and that's how I got involved in transcendental meditation. And the day that I started that program, I saw a huge shift in my life itself. And that inspired me later on to actually become a teacher of the knowledge because I saw the transformation it was making in myself. And I said, no, I want to teach this to other people. And that's how my journey began.
Nice. And are you inspired by any of the Chinese philosophy or spirituality?
Well, actually, my father came from China. My background is very interesting. My father came from China in the early 20s, and my mother's mother came from India, and her father came from Scotland. So I have the influence of both the East and the West. and that actually worked in my favor because later on as I got deeper into the meditation practice and working under His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, in 1985, he introduced Ayurveda to the West in a major way. And he made very significant changes to Ayurveda. And that how it was propagated at the time. So he introduced things like collective consciousness, which was not, people were not talking about that in those days. And this is how I got involved in Ayurveda. He asked me to study Ayurveda. And knowing that I was from Chinese background, Mahashi's philosophy at that time was that anything that is natural is Ayurveda. Any natural form of medicine is Ayurveda. And in fact, in one meeting with him, after I learned Chinese medicine under his guidance, he told me that Buddha took the knowledge to China, and that is how we got Chinese medicine. And at that time, I was okay, yes, but now in research and I actually realized that a lot of the Vedas and the knowledge, including martial arts, actually originated in some part of India and later on were taken out into China and other parts of the world. So, this is how I got involved in Chinese medicine. It was under his guidance that he said, go and learn Chinese medicine because it's all part of Ayurveda. And having studied both Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, I can see the similarities and I can see the differences also. I can see that what seemed to have been forgotten in certain parts in terms of Ayurveda has been there in Chinese medicine and vice versa, the same is true. So it's a nice combination.
Yes, nice. And because you're coming from Chinese background and you have done Chinese medicine along with Ayurveda, would you like to speak something about Tao?
About, sorry?
Tao?
South?
No, Tao, T-A-O.
Tao, oh yes. Well, in Chinese, they speak about yin and yang, two opposite forces. When you see the representation of that Tao, you see a black and white symbol with a dot, either white and black dot. And what that actually means is that in life, it's a coexistence of opposites. And this coexistence of opposite is actually the coexistence of silence and dynamism. But silence, when we are in relative world and we are speaking all the time, then dynamism overshadows the silence. And when we deep in meditation and experiencing that deep silence, then silence overshadows dynamism. But in this type of philosophy, whether it's Vedic philosophy or Tao's philosophy, they all speak about this state of balance. In the physiology, we talk about homeostasis, but it's balance. And on that level of balance, then everything is connected and everything is united. And this is the yin and yang principle. This is the symbol of Tao itself, because contained within the dark circle is this hint of white. And within the white is this hint of black. So what one could consider is that if we think in terms of the coexistence of dynamism and silence, then what you would see is that as if white is, say, silence, uh, then you could see that the silence is more pronounced, and dynamism, which is, you cannot say has been negated, because you cannot negate either one, but has collapsed to its point value. Maharishi actually gives a very good example of that in terms of Vedic knowledge. And he says, like, for instance, Rik, from Rik Ved, we normally have R-K as Rik, short form, Rik Ved. So he says, if you think of the R as dynamism, so like it's spiraling all the time, and then it collapses to this point of K, which is a K value. So at that collapse, this is where dynamism reaches its point value and merges with silence. And that is the transcendent. Modern science calls it the unified field of all the laws of nature. But this is what, when people say that one must still the mind, this is what people try to achieve. This balance of what is called yoga, that essence of life, where unity exists. And that is what in the Vedic tradition you call Aham Brahmasmi.
So how is this traditional Chinese medicine different from other systems of medicine?
It's complementary, I would say. The way I deal with clients is that it's not like one system is better than the other, because life is a composite. For instance, even in terms of traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, when you read the ancient texts on the principles of these traditional medicines, what you would find is that they were talking at a time when there was not the use of pesticide. When they tell you to use like milk, in Ayurveda, there's a lot of talk about milk and ghee. They were talking about, when they speak about ghee, they were talking about that clarified butter, which what you call dahi, when the first churning of the milk. That you hardly get anymore. so and then a lot of the foods that they tell you to eat, both in Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine, now they're all grown with pesticides and stuff like this. And so the traditional way can't always be the right way anymore. Plus, the philosophies and the dietary recommendations were made for a particular type of physiology and people. But when you come into the West, as you know, Western people eat all kinds of different foods. And you can give them just a plain Panchakarma diet or a Chinese kind of diet using just the traditional spices alone, because it's one of the nice things about Maharishi Ji was that he said the foods that exist in your area would be more natural to you. rather than foods from another country. And,
Yes.
and so where Chinese medicine is concerned and Ayurvedic medicine, I follow those principles. Even though the underlying truth and basic principles like dosha in terms of Ayurveda, or like yin and yang and 5 elements in terms of Chinese medicine remain the same. So those basic principles, yes, they are your guidelines. But one thing that I would mention when you speak about Chinese medicine, I learned I was fortunate to learn my first set of instruction in Chinese medicine was from a very old Chinese doctor who somehow found his way to Trinidad, running from the war with the Japanese back in the 20s. And at that time, the Japanese were destroying all the learning of the Chinese as they invaded China. And they were killing all the masters. And he ran with all his books. And he came to Trinidad. And this is where I started my training under him. It just so happened he and my father came from the same village. So he accepted me because it was very difficult. He didn't want to accept me at all. But when I told him who my father was, he just happened to know my father. And so he accepted me, yeah, to train me in this tradition of Chinese medicine. And part of my training, because Mashi, when he learned about this man, he said, I need to study with him because he would have the real knowledge. And it turned out to be true. I would bring books on Chinese medicine for him to look at. And he would tell me they are all wrong. The principles are not right. And this man was extremely good. You know, he just need to hear what was wrong with you. And I'll give you a simple example so that you could understand a little deeper. There was a case of a woman from Canada who every month she would have to be rushed to the ICU. She would just take in with intense pain and all this sort of thing. And this went on for years and it became very debilitating. And she decided that she would move back to where she came from in Canada and just stay there to die. At that point, she was already in a wheelchair. And her brother contacted us through Mashiji. And I told the doctor, and he said, this is the influence of the moon on her. I said, the moon? He said, yeah, the influence of cold. Ask her if this thing is happening 3 days before the full moon and staying until 3 days after the full moon. And when she checked, exactly. And so just with that little information, he made a medicine for her. And in those days, you could post medicine. So we posted that for her. And this woman revived. That was a skill that he had. And he told me that a lot of the way they train the doctors now are not right because they don't know the ancient training. You know? So one of the things, for instance, in both Ayurveda and Chinese medicine that I see have been lost is, I guess you have come from India, right?
Yes.
Your parents. And you would know that in the older tradition, you start with hot things. You drink hot tea. But now if you go to India, and I've been to India many times, you go to the restaurants, it's like in the West, they put a cold glass of water for you. The same thing in China. But that is not true because those cold things actually destroy your digestive system.
Yes.
And when I tell Chinese doctors this, they say, oh, where did you get that knowledge? Because they all know about this simple thing like that, that hot water itself, and this is a principle that everyone can use, hot water itself is medicine.
Yes.
You know, so these kinds of things. And so that's how I learned. I learned by being with him, seeing Western patients, and they could not understand him because of his way of speaking English. Because my father spoke like that, I could understand him and I could understand the West. So I was the translator in between, and that's what I did before going on and studying, in the traditional way. So that's my little history on Chinese medicine.
Yeah, it's wonderful to know like a woman from Canada got healed by the Chinese medicine.
Yeah, there are so many cases like that. He was such an expert,
Okay. So what are your experiences relating to Hara, which is solar plexus?
So sorry, I didn't get.
What are your experiences relating to your Hara, which is called solar plexus?
Oh, right. Yes. So that's one of the chakra areas in the body, and in fact, in MAM therapy and also in light therapy with gems, we use those areas of the body to enliven the subtle bodies of the individual, because we are aware of mainly this physical body, but there are many layers of bodies. There's the emotional body, the mental body, and all that. And these are subtle areas where the chakras, these points, actually connect all the bodies. So knowing how to activate those areas actually enliven. But specifically where the solar plexus is concerned, this is the area also connected with the heart chakra that deals a lot with emotions. And that area gets very disturbed when people suffer from insecurity in life, which is generally like a second chakra imbalance. The first and second chakra, you're not grounded. And there are a lot of uncertainty and insecurity in life. Right now, a lot of people, because of this coronavirus, are having all these issues taking place.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so that area is a very important area because where it sits, it's a junction point between the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body. So this area here is actually, you can say, the connection point between the gross physical level, which is the lower part of the body, lower chakras, and the higher levels. And when that is activated enough, then what starts to happen is that love starts to flow. True love, universal love, because this is opening up of the heart value in life, which is unfortunately the more mind value has been open in life, but not so much heart value. You see it in all our politicians and everybody around. It's all about outside and the materialism and all this sort of thing that will make you happy. But if your heart is not flowing in love, you cannot experience true happiness.
So how is this center very important than other energy centers?
No, they're all important. They're all important. And for one to experience full awakening, then they all have to open. And they have to open in such a manner that the energy that is sort of contained or trapped in the root chakra people call the Kundalini, that has to flow effortlessly through the various chakras to the top of the head. And if it's not open in proper sequence, then it can create a lot of imbalance in life. But the heart chakra, that solar plexus area that you're speaking about, that is also the seat of bliss. And sometimes people call it the bliss chakra. And there are techniques actually that one can do, which there are certain mantras and certain techniques that some awareness techniques that one can do that help to enliven that area of the body. It's a very, very important because it's like a gateway between the top and the bottom. And it's also the connection for real spiritual enlightenment.
Okay, so it's very nice to know that. And many Taoist practices talk about the relationship between Dantin and physical immortality. Do you have anything to speak on this?
Dancing?
Dantin. It's Dantin. Dantien. It's like Hara.
You explain that for me. What does it really mean?
No, it's Hara.
So it's mainly like breath.
No, Hara is the solar plexus. So I'm asking if any Taoist practices talk about the relationship between the heart, solar plexus, and the physical immortality.
Not so much, no. Not so much. You see, at least from the perspective that I have studied, maybe they do in other areas, because I haven't really studied Zen Buddhism as such. And maybe in Zen Buddhism, they speak more of that kind of thing. But what I would tell you is from a standpoint of Chinese medicine, when you take the pulse in Chinese medicine, you actually looking at all the organ systems in the body. And the organ systems are very much related to the emotions. And so when you discover that, then you can know the emotional imbalance. What I have found in my practice, and that's why I have written the book, Master Your Emotions, Transform Your Life, is that many of the ailments on a physical level that you see is due to the blockage of that area, the heart chakra area. Emotional problems, and that happens due to trauma in life. Disappointment, trauma, things like this. And anyone who has gone through any sort of real upheaval at some point, you tend to feel a tightness that takes place right in that area. Like if you go through some panic or fear or something, this area tightens. And that is the whole solar plexus area, which now kicks you into a fight or flight mode, not so much in terms of rational, but more on an emotional level to protect you. And over time, that closes that area in terms of making it available so that you can freely love. You become more protective of yourself. So we can see that and we can know how to deal with that. But this is where systems which are outside of the herbal tradition itself, mama therapy, light therapy, these kinds of things, would actually deal with these subtle areas of the body, these energy centers. That's where those systems come in. Because herbs by itself will take a long time to heal the emotions. You need to know how to, You seem to be very interested in that type of topic.
Yes, it's very nice. So, according to you, what is divinity and how can one awaken divinity in themselves?
Beautiful. I love that question more than all your questions. By nature, we are all divine. We are all made in the image and likeness of God. And we are all coming from that same universal source of the Vedas call it Brahm or Brahma or Shiva or whatever. It's that universal source of creative intelligence, which is like an ocean of pure consciousness from which everything in the universe, including our human physiology, is constantly emerging and submerging at infinite speed. And this is what, fortunately for modern science has told us that there's an underlying field of creative intelligence that they now call the vacuum state or the unified field of all the laws of nature, from which, including the human body, is coming out of. And they have found in modern science that human consciousness actually affects the field, unlike classical physics and things like this. And there are beautiful books that are written for laymen that anyone interested could read, like the physics of Tao and the dancing woolly masters. These are all based on quantum physics, but you will find it's almost sound like metaphysical when you're reading it. So there's this underlying field of intelligence which all the ancient seers, East and West, had known. This is the Tao that you're speaking about. This is that balanced state, unified field. This is the Satchitanand. This is the Nirvana. This is that field of pure consciousness that is there within everyone. The human physiology as we know it is an expression of that field. And as I tell people when I lecture on this subject, I said, we are already divine, but our divinity is hidden by the stresses and strain that we have created in life. And by the wrong way of thinking and wrong beliefs that we have of who we are. Because we are not educated to know that we are divine, even though our religious teachings may tell us that, but who believes it? Because when we look at ourselves in our daily life, we don't see ourselves as divine individuals. We see ourselves making a set of mistakes. And, I remember Mahashiji used to tell us, we already enlightened beings. And we would, not me, I have this, I'm so stressed out and all that. But he was right, because the essence of ourself is like that. And what people did not recognize, that it was not through philosophy that you realize the totality of who you are. It was through the refinement of your nervous system and your brain physiology that it can now express the totality of who you are. It's like this television set that you have, if the coaxial cable coming to it is not clean, then the signal will not be clear. And it's like your central nervous system and the brain physiology is the organs through which this field of pure creative intelligence expresses itself in this instrument we have created in order to walk on this place we call planet Earth. It's just a vehicle. But we have to understand the vehicle and we have to know how to purify it. And that is what has been sadly missing. Because a lot of people who speak this knowledge think that if I can regurgitate and talk about it and in all the nice philosophical way, then I will become enlightened. No, I say you're already enlightened. That's why it's called self-realization. You just have to realize that that yourself, the self, is that. And how you do that is knowing how to silence the mind to that state of perfect balance and silence, where silence and dynamism coexist, meaning that you're not so silent that you lose awareness. And that could only happen, as they have seen now in research, when the brain maintains maximum coherence, meaning all areas of the brain become fully ordered and the body is in a state of perfect rest. So what you end up with is a state of balance where you have this restful alertness. And this is what you want to, in order to live your divinity on a day-to-day. You want to have that silence coexisting with all your dynamic states of activity, so that whatever you're doing, whether you're sleeping or waking or prancing or dancing, you never lose that balance inside. And why? Because that state of balance, that divine state, is a state of Satchitananda, bliss, the bliss consciousness. And when you have that, then what happens in your life is that 24/7, you're living a state of fulfillment. As I told some people in a recent lecture on this topic, I said, it does not mean that in the enlightened state that you do not have challenges anymore. You will always have challenges, but you will never suffer. You will never feel this sense of defeat and despair. What people call problems will now become a test for your creative intelligence. And you'll be happy to go after it.
Yes.
So that's what when I speak about divinity, I speak about it in very practical terms, in terms of a living reality where you can live 200% of life. And that is your birthright. This is not a far-fetched thing. This is something that we are born to enjoy. What has been lost is how first to transcend or to know that area of life and to become familiar with it, so much so that it never leaves you. Not just to touch it now and then, but it has to become like your best friend. You have to fall in love with it. Just as when you fall in love for the first time, all through the day you're thinking about the boy or the girl or what are they doing and all that. That love has to be so complete within yourself that what people call it's a love of God. And that sweetness, irrespective of what you're doing, never leaves you.
Yeah, wonderful. Very nice. And how can we bring this divinity at the global scale?
This is what, in my life's journey at this age, I said, this is, someone recently asked me, said, so what's the purpose of your life? And I said, the purpose of my life at this stage is to, as many people as I meet, to help them to awaken to the fact that they're divine. And how I do that is talking about it, letting people first understand that there is a place within themselves that all the great masters from the East or the West have spoken about. And that and it doesn't matter where you are in station of life, you have that. It's just overshadowed by your belief system and the stresses on your system. And these are like, if it's rainy by you, you cannot see the sun because there are clouds in the sky. And you could say the sun does not exist if it's raining, or like in winter for a long time, dark days. But that's not true. The sun has never disappeared. It is just hidden from view by all these clouds. It's the same thing with us. God or divine nature has never left us. It's forever with us. It's just hidden by all the stresses and misbelief and inconsistencies with our mind and body. And if we can find ways of purifying that, this is where Ayurveda comes in. This is where in all the religions we hear about fasting and taking care of the body, and the body is the temple of the Lord. All those things are there in order to purify this physiology so that it can express the glory of what it was made to do. And that's what I first expressed to people. And then, fortunately, I have learned techniques of how people can actually go there. So I can get them into the practicality rather than in the philosophy only. Because what I just said is menu, but it's not food. And if you only have menu or no food, then you feel more hungry. So you have to give them the menu, and they say, ah, yes, I want to eat that dish. And now you have to give them the food so they can have a taste of what it's like, you know?
Yeah.
So this is how I've been helping for all these years. And I've instructed thousands of people, and I continue to do that, you know? And in the beginning, most people are not interested in their divinity. They're interested in getting rid of their stress and becoming more creative and more productive in life. And yes, as they start to get that, then they say, what have you taught me? Because I feel so peaceful inside. And now they're ready for the knowledge. Yeah? So it's a step-by-step process.
Yes. So how can anybody discover their life secret or life purpose? By coherently silencing their mind.
Well, that would not help you find your life purpose, just silencing your mind. As a coach, one of the things I do in coaching, I ask people, I said, so what's your life plan? Everybody make a plan at the beginning of the year for the year, with their health or whatever it is. Most people don't follow. But I said, if you don't know where you're going, say now you're retired or close to retirement age, if you sit back and look at your life, what would you like to see in terms of your health, in terms of your career, in terms of your relationships, in terms of your spirituality? And if you can define in those 5 areas, I generally outline 5 areas, I say, make a life plan in your spiritual growth. And then now you can make a year-to-year plan of how to achieve that life plan. It's a good, simple thing for everybody to do. And that helps you to find your purpose in life. Because purpose will differ for people depending on their state of consciousness. And that's a whole topic by itself.
Yes, but if you say like the state of consciousness, it's all dependent on their emotions. So first they have to control emotions. So what different ways do you suggest? Like one can control their emotions?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult for most people to control their emotions. And one of the reasons for that is because of what we call in physiology neuroassociation. When we are born with over 3 billion brain cells, but they are not connected at birth. And it is through seeing and hearing that they start to make connection. So for instance, the first time a young child goes into the kitchen and say the mother bring out flour and sugar and eggs, Mommy, what are you doing? Oh, I'm making a cake. And then you stay there and you watch, and then she gives you a taste and it tastes nice. Then right away, your brain now makes that association. Next time you go into the kitchen and you see flour and egg, you say, oh, Mommy, are you making a cake? And that is how we learn. That now creates an emotional bond for you. Because if that cake tasted good and you love it, then you know every time you're feeling down, you may say, oh, maybe I should have a piece of cake because that makes me feel good. so, so the emotions, life itself, life, all of life is an emotional journey. And an emotional journey, what is a journey? To find back that universal love on which we are all made. Because every emotion that we have is either bringing us closer to love or moving us away from love. Negative emotions move us away from love because they create disharmony. Positive emotions move us more to love because they create harmony. So just that simple thing. You want to know how to grow in your divinity or how divine you are today. How happy are you today? If you're very unhappy, if you're all stressed in your mind about this or that, then you know you have moved away from your divine nature. Because your divine nature is all universal love. If you're happy and full of energy and lively, then you're closer to your divinity. So emotions are not something that you can just say, this is what you do. Sometimes, like right now, I'm in the process of putting online my course on Master Your Emotions, Transform Your Life, which is a 16-lesson program that takes you into your belief system, your values, and all this sort of thing. So people can really understand what pushes their emotional buttons and the techniques that they can use in order to harness that. What's their backstories in life? What are the things that created trauma that they don't even realize that now they are running an old pattern and they're reacting based on an old story that may have happened 10, 15 years ago.
Yes. So how can they handle this change? Like now they have to come out of that old trauma to live in the present with awareness. So how can they handle these emotional changes?
Yeah, depending on how deep the emotion is, sometimes they do need like psychiatric care or drugs and all this sort of thing, you know, depending if it's psychosis or you know, or deep states of depression. But most people are not like that. Most people with proper coaching, with proper understanding, you see, when I coach, I do what is called spiritual coaching because my goal, irrespective of where you come from, is at the end that you should know that you are divine and you should start your journey to really grow in that, even if you just came because you were emotionally all out of place, right? But you have to start somewhere. If you want to lead somebody to the top of the mountain, you cannot stand on the top of the mountain and say, come here, I'm at the top. You have to say, ask them, where are you? Describe to me where your surroundings are. And then the person describe, oh, I'm here and there. And then you say, okay, you see that tree and that path, start walking there. And when you reach here, tell me when you reach. And like that, bit by bit. Other than that, the person can't come to you if you just stand. And that's unfortunately what a lot of us do as spiritual teachers. We stand on the top of the mountain and we say, come, it's nice up here. But we don't describe where the person is and help them to move step by step by step, you know? And so people get frustrated with us, you know? I could never be like you. We don't want you to be like me. We want you to be like you. But we teach you how to that. So in that emotional balance, then those people need coaching. I give you a very simple example so you can understand. Huh? A young man was sent to me some years ago. He was just past 21 years of age, and he was having a lot of chest pains. And he had gone to the doctor and all that. Nothing wrong with his heart, you know. He was into martial arts. He was quite fit, you know. So someone recommended that he comes to see me. And as I took his pulse and started to talk to him, I realized that he had emotional blocks. So I asked him if he had any girlfriends. And he said, no, I'm not interested in women. I said, why, young man, you're not interested? He said, they're too much trouble. I said, how you mean that they're trouble? And he started telling me that women are not good. And I said, what do you mean women are not good? Well, you know, I said, I said, all women are not good? Yes, all women. I said, but you grew up with your grandmother, right? Because I knew a little bit about his story. He said, yeah. I said, what's your grandmother, a good woman? Yes, of course, of course. I said, but she was a woman, so all women are not bad, you know? And then I asked him to tell me about his parents. And he said, I don't want to talk about that. I said, what about your mother? Is your mother alive or so? When last you saw your mother? Are you in touch? When I was 12 years of age. It turned out, I just cut the story short, it turns out that the mother was 15, 16 years of age when she got pregnant. And she was on drugs. And so what she did, she gave the child to her parent to raise because she knew that she could not raise this baby. And the first time he saw his mother was when he was 12 years, when his grandfather died. And so he had this hatred against his mother. And he was so bitter against her. This is again heart chakra. Mm-hmm. He was feeling pain in the chest. And so I took him through a technique to release that and to say forgiveness and all this sort of thing. And the pain left that same day in my office. He cried and all this sort of thing. I told him the story of Moses. I said, you know, Moses' mother could not take care of him and put him in a wicker basket and send him down the Nile. And then the Pharaoh's wife found the Moses in this basket and raised him as a prince. I said, your mother, out of love for you, not hate, love, sent you to the best people she knew could take care of you. And she did right. Later on, he wrote me and told me that he and his mother made up.
Wonderful.
But you see, so this is emotion. And you see how that could ruin your life and your relationships. And he didn't even realize it was that backstory that he was holding on to that was having him rotten in his relationship. So it's not just teaching people to meditate, you know, that yes is important. But you also have to know how to remove the barriers that are preventing them from experiencing. Other than that, they feel good, they come out. Meditation then becomes like a vitamin C tablet when you have the cold.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
So I hope that helps you in terms of the emotions.
Yes. So you do soul coaching treatments. So do you just heal emotions related to heart, or do you also heal or help other patients who are having different issues with different parts of the body?
Yeah, because you see, emotions affect all areas of the body. Some people end up with back pain, chest pain, head pain, insomnia, digestive problems, gynecological problems, you know, a host of things. And so because I'm trained in Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine and all these other things, I bring to the table a full package. So I can recommend herbs. I could recommend maybe certain types of massage. I could recommend meditation. I can give you the coaching advice or whatever it is. It all depends on what you need. But
Yes.
I've been fortunate in my life studies to have covered so many nice areas. So I can deal from the grossest level to the deepest spiritual level because I know the techniques.
Yes. Wonderful to know that. And based like currently in the present modern medicine, how do you see your healing methods bringing change?
Well, I work hand in hand with doctors. I don't claim that I know everything. And there are lots of good things in modern medicine. Like, for instance, nothing can arrest a heart attack faster than a pill under the tongue or some, cardiac shock or something like this. Where Ayurveda and Chinese medicine are concerned, they're very good at prevention and also cure. But when it comes to radical intervention, you do need sometimes the modern medicine approach. And so what I do, for instance, I do pulse analysis in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, but I can't tell you your platelet count to the pulse. I could tell you that the blood is weak, you know,
Yes.
I can't tell you the formation of the cells. So what I will do, I will say, okay, now you need to go and do a blood analysis. And based on that, then we will continue, right?
Okay.
So you have to know, and unfortunately, I see many people in my type of profession who say they are alternative medicine. They say don't have anything to do with Western medicine. Or the Western medicine doctors say, don't have anything to do with alternative. No, it's all from God. And we have to make use of all that God send our way to heal this body. Because remember, this vehicle that we have, that we call ourself, our physical body, is the only one we have for this journey. So we have to know how to take care of it. And we have to understand what it is and how it's functioning in terms of age and its type and all this sort of thing, so that we know how to deal with it. It's like if you have a car certain years or age old, you cannot treat it like a new car. You have to understand the vehicle. And in that way, then it can give you maximum value. And this is where Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, modern medicine come in. But you should be wanting to take care of your health for that one purpose, so that your enlightened state can shine through every area of your life. That this nature of life to suffer is banished from your thoughts. Because we are not born to suffer. We are born to enjoy.
Yes. So what are your teachings and messages to everyone?
Awaken to your divinity. That's the simple message. Hurry. We don't know how long we have on this earth, whether we're young or old. We don't know how many days or weeks. Once you feel that, wow, that makes sense, seek it out. As you start to look for it, it will start looking for you, and you will find the right method and the teachers. You know, whatever we put our attention on starts to grow in our life immediately. And if you have a thought about something, if you keep your attention on that thought, that thing, no matter where it is in the universe, starts to move towards you. Because we are all interconnected.
Yes.
And so So we are like magnets. We just have to put enough attention in that area to pull whatever we want towards us. And when we do that, we have to have no doubt that the universe is working in our favor.
Yes.
It's the doubt
Yeah.
that prevents it from coming. So my message is, hurry. Time is short. This world, as we know it, is going through a phase transition. It's moving, as we see, not just in one country, but the whole world with this coronavirus and all this. Everybody is now having to be more self-referral, more self-conscious. They have to be looking within rather than outside. And those who can do that more will find the peace and happiness. And those who still believe that peace and happiness come from success and outer achievement will continue to suffer miserably for the rest of their life. So my message is, seek that first. As they say, know that one thing by which all else is known. The Christians say, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within, and all will be granted. Bhagavad Gita says, Yogastha Kurukamani. Establish yourself on that level of being or yoga, and then perform action. Same thing. Buddha said, Nirvana. Right? It's all there. But who is listening? Everybody still think that, oh, go out there, make all the money, become successful, and then you will be happy. No. It will bring success, but not fulfillment.
Yeah.
The only way you can gain fulfillment is by awakening to your divine status.
Yes, it's true. But I like the word, what you said, hurry. Hurry to practice immediately.
No, yeah, because we hear it and then we say, oh, it sounds nice, and then yes, pass, and then no. They say, one of the great teachers in Vedic philosophy has said, once you hear it and you know it to be true, run towards it. Don't walk, run.
Yes.
Because you don't know when Lord Yama is waiting to pull you by the hair.
Yes.
Lord
Correct.
Yama is the god of death,
Yes.
So don't wait.
Absolutely true.
Don't wait, just run. And that's my message to young and old. If you're in a practice, practice more, and understand that this body is really the temple of the Lord, and you need to know how to refine every aspect of it. Just don't rely on the philosophy. You have to know how to take care of this temple. Just as how, when you want to have puja, or you want to have a ceremony, you clean the temple and you make sure everything is nice and things. You have to do that to the body every day. You have to do that to the mind. You have to purify the mind every day. Not just go and take a bath, a physical bath. You also have to take mental baths every day.
Thanks a lot, Dr. David. It's a very nice message for everyone, whoever watches this. And we are almost past 1 hour. It was a very nice session. I hope you also enjoyed it.
Yes. And thank you for your lovely questions. As you can see, I love speaking on this kind of knowledge.
Yeah, we'll be in connect.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Bye.